Perfect. Hello, once again. My name is Vivian Sanchez, and I am with the Texas Council on Family Violence. Today, we will be discussing partnering with the arts sectors with the Texas Council on Family Violence. Join with me today, I have our incredible staff, William West and Samantha McWhinney, also joined by Drew Johnson. I'm super excited to be in this space, and if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm going to hand it off to William and Samantha and Drew to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm William West. I use he, him pronouns. I am the prevention manager at the Texas Council on Family Violence. We are the statewide domestic violence coalition in Texas. I'm excited to have this conversation about one of our partnerships that we're having.
And I am Samantha McWhinney, she, her. I'm also with TCFV. I am a prevention coordinator on our team. And I've been with TCFV for a few years, and my role primarily focuses on community partnerships and partnerships with non-traditional partners. So I'll pass it over to Drew.
Hi, everyone. I'm Drew Johnson. I'm with Zach Theater. I'm our marketing and sales director, and Zach Theater is Austin, Texas's largest producing theater, just meaning we create all of our plays and musicals from scratch rather than a tour that might come through town or something like that. And I've been with Zach almost 8 years now. Samantha, do you want to go ahead and...
Sorry,
Oh, yeah.
Just going to put it out there that my computer is being very finicky today. So I think it's ready for the weekend. So I apologize if there's any tech issues in the process of this learning circle. But thank you for those introductions, y'all. I am so excited that I get to work with this team. This is a really exciting partnership, and it's one of our newest partnerships. If you remember, or if you were able to attend the panel discussion earlier this week, I mentioned that it might be one of our newest partnerships, but it is one of the most exciting in terms of like growth and like engagement that we've seen in a while, which is really exciting. And so I'm actually going to turn it over to William because William had the brilliant idea to reach out. And so I'm going to let him share a little bit about how we got started with this partnership.
Yeah, so I like to go to a theater. I like a show. And the Zach was putting on a show called What the Constitution Means to Me. Curious in the room if anybody has heard of it, seen it. Anybody has an emoji hand or a real life hand that they want to put up. If you are familiar. Maybe not. Thanks, Drew. Okay, so I mean, one, look it up. It's great. If there's a local showing that you can see live, fantastic. There's also a version on Amazon Prime, or there was. I'm assuming it's still there. Um, but what the Constitution means to me is a really impactful show. It's a almost a one woman show, and Heidi is the creator. She is telling some of her story and kind of reflecting on an experience that she was having growing up, doing a Constitution contest, and through her storytelling, she talks a lot about violence against women, and particularly as it relates to her family and the Constitution, and what rights folks have or don't have and how they access them. Anyway, great show. Go watch it. But I was in the audience and I had seen it before, and I was really reflecting on opportunities that might exist to further connect audience members to resources. Whether that was preemptively telling folks, this show featured conversations about domestic violence, sexual violence, or post-show, like if someone felt impacted by the content of the show, that they could reach out to resources. And so And I had done this once before with a different theater that was showing a different show and didn't get a response. So I didn't have a lot of hope. But I told Samantha, I was like, I went home and like late at night after the show, went onto the Zach's website and found as many emails as I could and was like, hey, I don't know who the right person is, but I work for the State Domestic Violence Coalition. I'd love to talk to y'all about a partnership and what we could do to when there are shows that have portrayals of violence, um, what that could look like. And so surprisingly, like I said, I had done this with a different theater before, and so it didn't get a response. I didn't expect to get a response, but like the next day, folks from the ZAC reached out and were like, yeah, let's do something. And so Samantha and I came together on our team, and Drew and a couple of folks from her team found ourselves in a Zoom together talking about the possibilities. And so that's kind of the origin story of this partnership. So Samantha, jump on it.
And yeah, and thank you for that like tidbit there in the chat about it being an organic beginning, because I feel like on our team it tends to be like we are theater lovers and we are book lovers, and that's like how a lot of our partnerships come to be, is what connections we already have in our personal lives and how we can leverage those into the work that we do. But Drew, I would love if you would share a little bit about what that experience of William reaching out to you, what that looked like internally for the ZAC, and what kind of discussions y'all had, and even like the kind of culture that you have to have in your organization or at your theater to be able to consider a partnership like this.
Yeah, so many things came up when you were asking those questions that I would love to talk about. I will totally admit that I think that email came through and I did not even like flag it for a minute. And it was somebody on our artistic team who was not the director of the show that William was talking about, but is the director of the show that we ended up partnering even more on, which was called Waitress. She was the one who came to me. Her name's Cassie, and she was like, hey, did you see this email? And I think it was probably like in my brain, somebody emailing to sell us some software or something. And I like just didn't even flag it. And she was like, read it. I think that this could be really beneficial for us, especially with the show that's coming up, which the primary relationship in the show is a violent one, romantic relationship. So yeah, so I read William's email and I had the same response of like, oh man, this would be so awesome to have their support in figuring out how we talk about this with our audiences and how we provide resources, because oftentimes we are just a small team of 4 people trying to figure it out for a number of different topics in different contexts that we are by no means experts on, and we're just kind of trying to do our best. So our first reaction was like, oh my gosh, to have people who know so much more about this than we do supporting us would be great. And then I think our second thought was like, oh man, it's going to be another project that nobody has time for also. So we were like, let's just get on the phone and talk to them and see what this could look like. And William and Samantha and their teams were so awesome because they, I think, immediately recognized that bandwidth in a nonprofit, as I'm sure a lot of people on this call understand, is often a challenge. So they sort of like preempted that from the start and said, hey, we are happy to write the language for you. We're happy to design something for you. If you don't have a designer in-house, whatever you need, we can make it super easy, but we would love to get these messages in front of your audiences. So anyway, I could keep going about how awesome the partnership ended up being, but that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, I appreciate that synopsis, Drew. And also like totally fair, right? Like we're all dealing with capacity issues in every sector. And so I think in past conversations you've said that us having like a plan already of options that you could choose from and like these different ideas kind of lowered that threshold, like lowered the barrier of you being able to give us a yes, of like partnering with us and agreeing to do this. And so something on our team that we do here on prevention at TCFV is anytime we reach out to a potential partner, what we do is we have what we call like a menu of engagement. And so anytime before we reach out to anybody, what we'll do is we'll brainstorm what that partnership could look like, and we will come up with some type of example menu that they could choose from so it can be mutually beneficial. So it will almost always include things like an awareness campaign of some sort, or of course, monetary donations for for-profit businesses. I'm not going to say no to like money donations, right? Or some type of training or some kind of menu of engagement that they can choose what feels comfortable for them so that they don't have to have the burden of trying to think of ways to make the partnership work or get off the ground. So, William, I don't know if you want to talk anything or add anything about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, not necessarily about that specifically, just kind of more about how like, yeah, we came with all of this menu, but also like Drew, you and your team came with like, here are all the different places that this messaging could go, right? Like pre-show email, like on the website, post-show email, like a sign in the lobby, like there were all of these points. So like we both came with this like list of ideas and like places where we could be helpful. And so it was a very like collaborative meeting where we were both coming at like really trying to center like we know that there are people that could benefit from this information. How do we get this information to them in an effective way? And I think probably my email was a little bit rambly. And I probably also did that in our first meeting where I was like, I don't have any idea on like on the theater side of things how things work. I don't know how you market. I don't know how your lighting stuff works. I don't know any of the things.
Yeah.
And so here's just all of the things
Yeah.
that we think. And so y'all's team was really great about saying, yeah, we can do this. And there were so many things that Samantha and I didn't even think about where the messaging could go. So
Well, I think to both of your points, having y'all coming to the table with, so I think you had sort of three tiers of how you were like, at this level, we could pop some copy in an email and call it a day. We could also have this kind of mid-tier where we've got messaging across 6 or 7 spots, and then we could also go all in and somebody could be at the theater every night at a table. So you guys coming to us saying, here are some starting points versus I think how a lot of these conversations tend to go is like, hey, we would love to partner. Let us know how you want to do it. It did take that burden of like, oh man, not only do we have to figure out how to execute it with a small team, but we've got to think about like ideate on how this actually looks. Coming to the table with here's some ideas, even if you're like, I don't know how lighting works, was so helpful because it gave us a starting point to then say, oh, I see what you guys are thinking. Okay, yeah, we could do this, we could do this. This is probably, not feasible. It was so much easier to start from that place than just like blank page and us being like, okay, we'll try to figure this out from scratch.
And I think having the open communication, like we were both sort of like pretty upfront with what we could and couldn't make happen. And then trying to, get it done pretty quickly because you have sort of like a timeline of, the next show coming out. And so just not letting things sort of like linger on and not readdressing or not following up on those things, like just kind of keeping engaged and keeping in contact and getting the ball rolling seemed to really have a pretty good outcome, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the point like where I don't remember which show that I saw of Constantine. It's like 5 or 6 times a week you
Mhm.
were putting on this one show, and I went to one of them, and we collaborated quick enough to where we got some of that signage up, some of that language up before the end of that
Right.
show's run. And then again, like you mentioned earlier, like collaborated maybe a little more expansively or fully on the next show on Waitress. And so y'all's team moved very quickly to kind of implement some of this idea and get a sign in the lobby where we put a QR code up where we had resource referrals, the national hotline and a few other things. Like very like thankful and appreciative of your team and how quickly y'all were like, let's implement this for this show that is currently running. It wasn't just like, well, we'll wait till the next one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that first time for anyone who's interested in this will be the hardest, like getting the ball rolling and figuring it out what it looks like. Like now, if we do another show that has a relevant story in it, I will reach out immediately and we'll already know, okay, we know we're both interested. We sort of know what this looks like. Let's shape it a little bit differently to make sure it's meeting the needs of this particular experience. But just knowing now there's an established partnership, I think will just make it so much easier to grow and grow going forward.
And I think now I'm going to share a few slides we have that kind of show what the first initial project was. So y'all can have an idea of, let me get everything out of the way. Okay. So this was the poster that we designed, and this is what the ZAC had available in the lobby of their shows. So the shows that they've both been discussing so far, it has just a brief content warning. It has the National Domestic Violence Hotline number, and then it has a QR code. That QR code scans to a web page that we have designed that includes statewide resources, including local family violence programs and shelters, batterer intervention and prevention programmings across the state, as well as like our donation link or relevant reports and resources that we have on our website. So that QR code is something that we have really great like control over and being able to make edits as we need. So we have sort of like a general web page that we've created that we can use for like a general tabling event or, whatever we might need it for. But we also have the ability to curate specific QR codes for specific events or demographics. And so this is what was posted in the lobby.
And can I
And
just make
then,
a comment really
yes.
quickly? Like, I think one of the other concerns that we had going into this was that so Zach is a nonprofit theater, and often when you're collaborating with other agencies, you have branding guidelines that clash or like different things, and at TCFV we have some for our own social media posts and things, a particular family of fonts and a color scale or whatever. But this was going to be in the Zach space. And so we wanted to be really open and clear that like whatever color scheme or font or whatever, they needed or wanted, we would make it work. And Drew, you and your team didn't have a lot of I'm gonna say demands, and that maybe isn't the right spirit of the word, but like on some of those things. So it made the collaboration even easier that neither one of our agencies were coming together with like super stringent, like, oh, we don't like those serifs on your font, and we don't, we need this to be a very specific shade of this color. Like, so I think that that's the other thing in this type of collaboration that you have to consider is that like if you're working with another organization in your community, you might have to navigate some of those things, and one of you has to be open, or both of you to some degree, to blending your fonts and needs or your branding, I guess, or adjusting to the others. And so kudos to the Zach. Like, well, we obviously put our logos on there, but kudos to the Zach for not having some super wild requirements on this poster that was going to be in the lobby. So
Drew, do you have any insight that you want to share about like what that, because I think we offered maybe like 3 or 4 options. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that looked like from an internal point of view?
Yeah, I think it was really helpful from our standpoint that y'all, pretty much every piece of collateral or something that was going to be public facing, TCVF offered either we can create this for you and just hand it over, or if you guys really want full control over the design, we'll tell you the elements that we would recommend including and give you our logo file and you can do it yourselves. So there were a couple pieces that we felt like, we really do want this to feel like it's aligned with our branding and our design, and we did that. And then there were some pieces that we were like, oh, it's actually fine to have more flexibility here. So again, I think just having those options kind of pre-packaged just made it, like, kudos to your team. It just made it so easy for us to say yes, because it was simple. We could either have full control over the design or it was just done for us. So that was really helpful.
And I think for us on the family violence side, I know some family violence programs that do have more strict or stringent branding guidelines. And for us, like coming into this collaboration, it's like if the Zach is going to give us the opportunity to put this information in front of, thousands of people that come through the theater to see these shows, what is more important to us, that this font is a particular way, that these colors are a particular way, or that these folks, these community members, these survivors potentially are having access to this information, right? Like, so whether, obviously like it ended up being in purple, which everybody probably on this call understands, purple and domestic violence are linked. But if the Zach was like, we need this to be in bright green, then we would have done it in bright green,
I agree.
because getting the information in front of those folks is more important than, now there are some things maybe we don't compromise on as far as like particular language choices or things like that. But luckily we didn't have to navigate that in this particular partnership. So
The like, it's such a balance, right? Because the less red tape you can have within your organization of moving quickly and getting things done. Like if we had had more permissions that had to happen, like if we had to take this, to 4 different people above us to get this approved, or this design approved, or if we had those strict requirements that William was talking about, we would have been able to get that last run of that show, and we would have missed hundreds of or thousands of people, right? And so the faster that we're able to navigate and like adjust ourselves, I think that makes it easier on our partner, and to meet what would help them the most. I'm going to move it over to, so this is what folks see prior to the show. As they're walking in, they get this content warning and they get this QR code. And then we have this. You don't see that. I don't know. My computer is okay. And so this is what they see after, and it has a little bit more, it's a little bit more dense as far as like the statistics and a little bit more information about domestic violence. It states our unified partnership there at the top. And then again, it has the QR code, that same QR code there in the middle for the resources and support. And then down at the bottom, we're a membership organization and anybody in the community can become a member of TCFV. And so there's a QR code there so that if folks want more information about TCFV, they want to become a member, if they want to get involved, attend any of our trainings or anything like that, then they're able to navigate to our stuff so that they can kind of see those things. So this was what we contacted them, sort of like our initial proposal with just this engagement in those shows that we've talked about, Drew ran some numbers for us for the reach that this one project has had so far. Here's the show. Isn't this amazing? This was at Waitress, which is one of the ones where we really started to get a little bit more integrated. So this was a really fun one too. I think they even, depending on where you're sitting, like they serve you pie and it's really exciting and really fun. So just with that project alone, over 10,000 people have seen that information. And so, like I said, this is our newest partnership and we're already having this kind of reach. Vivian, I see your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to highlight a question we had in the chat. Denise asked, is this a poster as they exit the theater versus what was in the lobby?
So thanks for the question, Denise. They were both in the lobby and we had multiple copies and they were sort of on like eye level stanchions in this container that stood on the floor. So the first poster that Samantha shared they were standing up throughout the lobby as people entered the theater before they saw the show, because that one was focused on the content warning. And then while everyone was in the show, our front of house team swapped that out for the second poster. So it was still in the lobby, but it was after they had seen the show and had the context of the story. And that was focused on more focused on resources and some educational information. So yeah, they saw it as they were either in the lobby after the show or exiting the theater.
And Drew, do you want to talk about like the different ways that people are getting all the information, the language that we created?
Yeah, so we had almost 10,500 people come through and see the show, and all of them would have received this information in these 3 different ways that Samantha mentioned. So when they went through the process on our website of booking their tickets, there was some language about our partnership and a content warning that TCFV helped us write, or actually wrote for us. And I don't think we changed it because we were like, great, we trust y'all. So that was up on the website. So they saw it at the point where they purchased the tickets. And then when they're coming to see the show, they get what we call a know before you go email. 48 hours in advance, and that goes through where you're going to park and what to expect. And we had a little bit longer blurb in there about content warning and about our partnership. So everybody who was attending the show also saw that email, and it's got a super high open rate because everybody wants to like have the pertinent information before they come to the event. So I think that was like just a really high visibility spot for these 10,000 or so people. And then the lobby signage. So once they were here and they sort of had the context and emotionally were in the space of this story, not like in the space of where am I going to park. So I think it probably was the most resonant moment that they saw this information. That was the third place.
And I saw the question in the chat about volunteer mix. So TCFV, we don't have very many volunteer opportunities. But certainly in that QR code, the local programs in Austin and around Austin are there. We haven't made an attempt necessarily to run numbers on if they've gotten more involved. But it's certainly something that we are hoping to do, like if another show comes around in the future, or if we're able to partner with other theaters in other areas. One of the other things that I think is important about this relationship is that the Zach also has a relationship, or has historically had a relationship with the local family violence program, and some of the other areas, the classes. Drew, I'm gonna let you talk a little if you want to talk a little bit about the summer classes and.
Yeah, so this partnership we've been talking about was really focused on individual productions, but there have been a couple of ways that it's really opened doors for conversations about what else this could look like. And Denise sort of indirectly to the question, oh no, sorry, Denise, it wasn't, it was this last comment in the chat about volunteer recruitment. On Zach Theater's side, interestingly, it did spark, we have a number of volunteers that help with the shows. It sparked a lot of interest from our volunteers and from our staff about what is this partnership? Who's this organization? How are we working with them? And that is what kind of organically turned into some ideas from our own staff about what else this could look like. So what William was referring to is we have a big education program. We do summer camps and break camps throughout the year, and then we have after school classes for 5 years old through 18. And then we actually have a pretty big, what we call advanced training program with high school age students who are interested in performing. So primarily it's acting and musical theater, and these are students mostly who are interested in either studying this in college or going on to have this be meaningful in their life in some way. So they're dedicating a lot of time to it. And we used to work with the local organization is called SAFE. We used to work with SAFE years ago, and they did a workshop a couple times a semester for our middle school students. And that has gone away for a while, and I think it's because of just the staffing relationships that were at SAFE at the time and at ZAC at the time. But this partnership on Waitress prompted our director of education to say, hey, do you think that they might be interested in doing some trainings with our educators to help them feel like they're equipped with how to have a conversation if a student comes to them and divulges something, or if they notice something with a student that concerns them, how to support that student or how to have that conversation, which is not really a training that any of us at ZAC have ever had. So that was one example. And, Samantha might get into more. We've brainstormed kind of a lot, but it was through this Waitress partnership and our own staff and volunteers seeing this information that prompted them to say, oh, I'm curious, what is that? And I think there are some other really helpful things that we could do together.
One of the other things I want to highlight that that we've already done is after one of the shows, we Drew and their team were so kind to invite us to facilitate a post-show discussion. I don't know if one of y'all wants to highlight that a little bit. I think Roy was maybe the one who did that one, but it was just an opportunity to kind of discuss the content of the show and to just talk with the audience about what they had just that kind of theater experience and how it relates to some of these topics, which was really great. And I mean, that's to have that level of invitation and to have that kind of access to their audience. We really appreciated that opportunity and that kind of vote of confidence and trust in us that they could invite us into their space to have access to their patrons who are there to see a show, and to have us be able to kind of use that time to facilitate a discussion. And then on a really fun note, they were also so kind as to invite us as an agency, as kind of like a team bonding, outing opportunity to come for a night at the theater, to come see the play. So although that didn't pan out because unfortunately a lot of folks got sick and they had to cancel that show, which never really happens. But something was going around and that just how it worked out.
55 performances, and that was the only one we had to cancel was the night that we had that plan. But
but it's a thought that counts, and it was going to be like all of our TCFV staff that would be able to go and kind of enter into their world for a bit and see that show that kind of started the partnership. I know, right? Isn't that a great benefit of that partnership?
Samantha, you talking about the post-show talk back, that was just another example of we are always looking for ways to kind of round out the show, like what sort of wraparound experience can we have beyond just the show itself, pre-show, post-show, and a follow-up email or an event that's happening later after the show. And it's one of those areas where sometimes it can be really hard to figure out what that programming looks like or how to fill that time in a way that's really meaningful for people. So to have a relationship like this in place and knowing we might have a group of 40 people from SAFE families coming to see a show, and we know they're going to be in that Thursday night, whatever the date is, that we have a partnership already in place to say, hey, would y'all be interested in coming to, have a conversation with these folks? Or so anyway, it just made it really easy for us to say, oh, we've got some great partners who could have a really meaningful conversation about what people just saw that we can lean on to help us with programming like that.
And like you said, we've done a lot of brainstorming on the possibilities for other programming that they have and how we can be involved or how we can connect or reconnect them to SAFE, the local program, or the other programs in the surrounding counties, because certainly Zach doesn't just draw from Travis County for folks to come see the shows. So and think about how we can connect with other theaters in other areas and really kind of expand this model or this type of outreach, because we know that theater arts programs broadly are also under attack, I'm willing to say, and we know that violence prevention is also being restricted in a lot of ways, in the ways that we can have conversations around domestic violence as a social issue as opposed to like a criminal issue. And so being able to partner with another movement that also has a lot of roots in like social emotional learning and community and connectedness, and it has really been a really cool experience, because we know that you can read about domestic violence, people know and experience domestic violence differently, and sometimes when you're watching it on stage, like it impacts you differently, right? Like when you see a story unfolding in front of your eyes, like whether you are a survivor or a bystander or just a concerned community member, you feel it differently. And so, we've talked a little bit about one of the ideas that we kind of brainstormed with Drew was like, maybe being able to talk with the cast a little bit as they're prepping for the show, to talk about what it's like to portray this like a violent relationship on the cast themselves as they're acting it out, and how do they stay well during that experience, and so we've talked about some of those potential opportunities in future shows. We've talked about, like Drew said, the classes and the young people that come to their shows, and what resources we can get in their world. And so it's a really exciting collaboration. Like Samantha was saying earlier, it's newer, few months old, I guess. But we think it has a lot of potential and possibility, and we're really excited about it. So.
And one thing I'll highlight, what William was saying was, the classes and, connecting with the educators who are engaging with the young people. What we've experienced here in Texas, and might be a theme we're seeing nationwide, is that some of the places, specifically schools, where we used to have access to young people and we used to be able to do a lot of programming and education about healthy relationships, it's just very difficult. And it's gotten to the point where some of our programs have even lost the funding to be able to go into schools and do this education. So now we're seeing a gap in being able to access young people to get them this education. And so having a partner who would be willing and able to kind of facilitate some of that education through their educators, like that's very powerful, because that's the demographic that we're slowly starting to lose here in our state. And we hear time and time again from our prevention educators around the state that it's just becoming increasingly difficult to engage young people, and they're having to kind of source that out into the community. And so that's something that I'm really looking forward to. And another thing that I wanted to highlight, I said this in the panel, but I just really want to highlight it again. Like, as prevention educators, when we talk about prevention and when we talk about like disrupting cycles, we always talk about that as having to come from the culture, as shifting our culture and our belief system and all of those things that are rooted in the experience of real life, right? And so when we talk about shifting culture, like, what is more culture than the arts, you know? And so this partnership allows us to have an opportunity to really reach through to the root of how people are experiencing life and how they're interpreting things that are in their community, and try to provide like some context and support that can sort of start to shift that belief system and shift that like life experience a little bit. Vivian, I see your hand.
Yes, I just wanted to highlight a question we had in the chat from Casey. It says, has this sparked collaborations between Zach and other nonprofits that address intersecting issues outside of domestic violence?
Yeah, actually, we are talking right now about, we have a musical that's happening late next spring of 2026 called Dear Evan Hansen. And it's the story of a teenage boy, and it's got some pretty heavy topics in it. There's a story of suicide of one of his acquaintances in high school, and then the kind of intersection of social media and mental health challenges in adolescence. And we've been having conversations internally about, okay, we know there needs to be some care taken on our part about how we talk about this and how we support people who are seeing the show, but also this conversation is changing so quickly with AI and ChatGPT and all the things. And so we are right now, so we don't have a partnership yet, but I don't know that we would be as earnest in talking now about what might this look like and planning for it as we would have been a year ago had we not done this partnership on Waitress. I think it's made us think ahead more and just be way more intentional about, like, oh, if this is not a show we can just put up there and then go away. We really need to have some context setting around it and some support around it. And we don't feel qualified to do that by ourselves. So yeah, anyway, I'm really appreciative that it's shifted our own minds, like the staff as Act Theater, artistic and partnership marketing side, just to be thinking a little bit more intentionally about that.
I'm curious if anybody in the audience has any partnerships in their communities with any organization in the arts sector. I'm seeing some no's. If so, you can come off mute or pop it in the chat. Or if you think that this is something that could be replicated in your community. Do you have a local theater? Do you have a connection? Yeah.
I would love to hear it if ideas pop up, but I would also say William and Samantha have been brainstorming after this Waitress partnership. We had a call and they were like, do you think other theaters like in Dallas and Houston, the other major cities in Texas, San Antonio, would be interested in something like this? And I definitely think they would. And I think if you live at almost every city will have a producing theater in it. I know not everybody's near a city, but I do think it's worth just starting the conversation. I know you won't always get a response, like William said, but I think a lot of arts organizations are looking for support on how do we provide information to our audiences outside of the show itself. And there's not often a person on staff that's dedicated to figuring that kind of thing out. So just reaching out to them and saying, hey, I saw your upcoming season and I think we could really support y'all and your audiences on these 4 shows. Are you interested in just getting on the phone? I think it's worth it. I don't think we're unique in wanting additional support around that where we don't feel like we have the language or the expertise. So yeah, I would just encourage a phone call or an email to try to start the conversation.
Yeah, and I'll also say that the theater that I didn't get a response from, that show was a national tour. Right. So like I had emailed the national tour management company and I emailed the theater itself. Like I emailed a lot of people. I'm not scared to send an email. And so um it's so like it's a different level, right? Like there's I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but there's like less investment from a national tour in like the local community, right? Like Zach is very like invested in the community of Austin. And so similarly to the um theaters in the other cities that Drew was mentioning, like they are invested in their communities, like they are a part of the community, they draw the community in, like, and so it's a different level of impact and engagement from the shows that go on a national tour, which should still have resources for survivors and like disclaimers and things, but nonetheless. Um, that's a great question, Denise. I don't remember what it was. Probably like potential partnership, or it might have. I'll try to look it up
Find it.
live in the moment. Um,
That's such a good question.
It might be like, please, please, please. Everybody else did not respond.
Domestic violence resources at Zach Theater. That was it.
Simple to the
Super
point.
clear. Super clear. Yeah, Casey made the point that we also, yeah, we've got what we call a main stage season, which is plays and musicals that theater people mostly have heard of. And then we have a family series, which is geared towards everything from, we've got a show for little toddlers right now called Campfire to about age 10 or 12. So we do 5 or 6 productions that are geared towards families every year too, which is another area we can kind of explore that we haven't really done yet together. But
and for folks who are curious, like, those types of shows, a lot of people, particularly right now, I think are nervous about the way we engage children around conversations about relationships, violence, particularly like sexual violence. Um, but there are age appropriate ways to do that, right? And so if there was a show, a children's show that featured an unhealthy relationship or like a bullying relationship, like there are ways that domestic violence agencies can be involved in helping with those conversations as well. Like it doesn't have to be like a particularly traumatic, violent relationship that is on feature in that show, right? Like it can be um like I said, bullying, which isn't necessarily a romantic relationship. It can be kind of unhealthy friendships that you're talking about. So it can be adjusted to be age appropriate. And thinking about like Dear Evan Hansen, for example, like that's like there's like tech stuff involved in there, and like there are ways that DV agencies can be involved in shows that don't and this type of conversation can be involved, this type of disclaimer, resource referral can be involved in shows that don't necessarily directly portray a like physically or psychologically violent relationship, right? Like there we know that the expanse of relationship violence is wide and can incorporate a lot of different things. And so when we're talking about healthy versus unhealthy versus abusive relationships, like it's a pretty big net that you can get involved with your um, local theater. don't know why this is in my head, and I don't know how many people are theater people in the room, so apologies if this reference means nothing to you. But thinking about like Little Shop of Horrors and like the Audrey too, the plant, like even how that relationship is not a healthy relationship, right? Like that's not a romantic relationship, but there is some manipulation and there's some isolation and there's a lot of oh, see, Rochelle, look at that. We got it. But like you can incorporate your partnership into different types of shows. It doesn't have just like Waitress and What the Constitution Means to Me happen to be particularly salient in that moment. Um, but it doesn't have to be that necessarily. There are other opportunities for this conversation that exist. So
I want to highlight something Denise said in the chat. Denise said, we have an inn at open stage, but there's some concerns with capacity. One thing that we've done with another partnership where there was like a flyer involved, right? The premise of the campaign is there's a flyer and different businesses and nonprofits and lawyers' offices and DAs out, like anybody can take this, it's more like a sticker, and stick it in their building somewhere, right? It has a QR code, scan for resources, right? We love a QR code. So one thing we've done to manage our capacity, because if we were trying to get that to everybody and fielding a lot of requests, that would be far outside of the capacity that we have. So one thing we've done for that is it lives on a website and you can download it and you can print it and you can put it in your building. And so making a template that you can have that lives on like an external web page that people can access, then it's just a matter of like a quick email that says like, hey, there's a resource that exists and you can download it here. If you were interested. And now the pickup on that might not be the same as like a very personal like meeting and all of that, but it's an opportunity to get it out there, right? And having folks be able to what we did as or what one consideration is having like a click consent form that says like, I will not alter this image, right? Because you don't want your logo and language to be changed to something that doesn't align with your values as an organization. But something like that might be a little bit less heavy on that capacity draw.
yeah, and interestingly, I don't think this is one of the things that we even talked about with Zach. And Drew, I'm not bringing it up as an idea right now, just to be clear. But like, if the Zach was like, oh, we'd like to put some things in the bathrooms, like on the back of the stall doors or on the mirror or something like, that's a relatively low lift once you get the sticker created, like like kind of Samantha was saying. Or there's some businesses, and I can't think of if this is existed, Zach, but like that have like a brochure rack in the lobby or like a little business card rack, and you can create those types of more static materials that or more passive materials that just exist in that space, and saying like, can we add this brochure for survivors to your brochure rack that's next to your front door or something like that. So there are some low level or if there's like a bulletin, like a newsletter type of deal, maybe getting a little blurb in there that's again more passive. And so certainly capacity is I think that was Denise, I think that was your comment, is a big concern and luckily at the particular time everyone's capacity kind of aligned on both sides of our partnership. So
I just wanted to add, I know we're coming up on time, but I am more than happy for anyone to share our name in this example if everybody else is good with that. If you do make a email or a phone call to a local theater, it might help just to share what Samantha shared of this is we did this with Zach Theater. It worked really well. Here's exactly what we did, so that they can just see really clearly, oh, this is what it can look like, and kind of ease the anxiety of like, what is this going to be? Like, how much work is it going to be? It's like, it's done. It could look exactly like this if you wanted it to. And we're happy to open up those examples to anyone. So it just might be helpful to show, like, literally, this is what the materials looked like, so that they can wrap their heads around it easily.
I appreciate that, Denise. That can make things a little, I'm just looking at the chat, it makes things a little trickier, right? So yeah, so maybe it's creating a template that programs can use when they do have the capacity. You know, I don't know, but I'm happy to chat through more ideas. If I mean, we've got our email listed here. We've got prevention@tcfv.org. And that comes to both William and myself. It comes to our whole team. So if you have any questions about partnerships in general, we have trainings about community partnership. We have resources about like how partnerships can be a spectrum, and you know what that different kind of levels of engagement can look like. And then Drew's got her email up there as well if you have any questions from like the theater side of things. But I just wanted to thank you for attending today. Thank you for rounding out this learning circle and town hall experience. And if you have any questions, just feel free to email us. William?
I was just going to say, I see that there are a couple of questions in the chat that I want to run through real quick in these last like 2 minutes. So Denise, if you follow the QR code, we had a blurb on the Notion that was created. That's the webpage we used for that. That's about safety. We don't have an exit button like many DV agencies have. On that, but like on TCFV's website, there is that exists. But we do have a little blurb about digital safety on there. We certainly talk about not everybody having a smartphone and like access issues, and it's kind of a balance of getting it to as many people as we can while keeping the capacity level, like balancing capacity and right. So we've had that conversation and try to think about ways that might adjust with some of the in-person events that we've offered or different things like that. And then I see that you have a non-compete with your local programs. And so the other thing that we can do is, as the state coalition, be the referral source. Like you can make the initial connection to the theaters, but you obviously that's another partner that you have to loop in with the local program to say, you know, you might get more referrals or more tabling requests or whatever. So maybe talking to them first, but if you're willing to bridge that relationship, it's an opportunity there as well. Oh, okay. I think I got them in there right at the 4 o'clock mark. But
Yes, you did. And thank you so much, Drew, Samantha, and William, for your time today. And thank you all for coming to this session. We will go ahead and close out as it's 4 o'clock. Have a good Thursday, everyone.
Thank you.